Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the F&O Show on Bloomberg Quint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza.
Good morning, Navneet. I'm Agam Akil. Let's take a look at how the markets are faring, Navneet. There's hardly any recovery. It's largely flattish today.
That's right, Agam. Though we did have a gap down opening coming by, we've recovered a bit from the lows, but I think just a breather that there's no further cuts that we're witnessing, at least today. After, of course, Nifty did touch those lows of about 10,757 in trade. We're back above the mark of 10,800 right now. So just meager bit of gains for Nifty, up 15 points in trade. Sensex trading with gains about 60 points. And Bank Nifty, by the way, has recovered a lot, at least from the opening level. So that's also seen gains of 0.5%. 145 points right now. The volatility index, which rose nearly 10% yesterday, has cooled off a bit below the mark of 18, but still at elevated levels. So India VIX down about 2%. Let's just pull up the broader markets as well. I think they've been underperforming compared to the benchmarks. Actually, they too have recovered now, just mildly bit in the positive territory. Just quickly take a look at the market breadth as well. Gives you a better picture of the entire listed universe, what's happening there. So advances right now have taken over the decline. So some good news on the screen. In terms of sectoral gainers, you've got the FMCG, IT, PSU banking index, which fell nearly 5% yesterday, seems to have bounced back. So some bit of positive ticks coming in for these sectoral indices. But I guess realty and pharma are still laggards in today's trade. And if that's the Nifty PSU banking index, up about 1.2%. This could just be a short covering bounce, by the way, because it's beaten down. Pharma is down 1% primarily because of the losses we've seen for Sun Pharma in today's session. So very quickly then on the option side, tomorrow is the weekly options expiry day as well. After falling 200 points on Nifty yesterday, the base has moved lower. So the maximum open interest on the call side is at the 11,000, followed by the 10,900 strike. Whereas on the put side, 10,800 remains the key level, which was breached in yesterday's session. Let's see if you can manage to close above that. But in terms of what's happening in today's trade, change in open interest, 10,700 put has added a lot of open interest today. So that's seen addition of nearly 7 lakh shares. Even on the 10,800 strike, we are seeing some bit of OI addition, whereas on the call side, maximum open interest so far has been added on the 10,800 strike. I think this is the key level. I think today will be the 10,800 if we can manage to close above that, Agam.
Absolutely, and that is where we did see a lot of build up as far as puts are concerned. But let's also talk about all the stocks which are in focus based on this, the movements that we see in terms of open interest increase, decrease, perhaps. And of course, Balakrishna Industry is looking at an initiation on an underperform from Macquarie, and the stocks under pressure has been a lot of a competitive intensity. That is what the broking firm is arguing. It's down 3%, 16% added in OI, well, towards shorts. Muthoot Finance is the other one which is buzzing right now. Pardon me, and it's seen a 15% increase in open interest towards shorts too. Just Dial, however, is bucking the trend. It's advancing. Longs there. MCX India continues to be under pressure. It's down another 3.8% and 12% added in open interest. And NIT Technologies, well, it's largely flattish, but there is a little bit of accumulation in OI there.
All right, so a lot of stocks to keep an eye on, but on the show today, we will be getting you technical views from our experts on stocks like Balakrishna Industries, which Agam's already highlighted. That's the top F&O loser. You've also got IndusInd Bank, which has slumped about 7% in last 2 sessions, and something like Muthoot Finance. So far for this calendar year, gold financing companies were doing well, but it seems like they too are succumbing to selling pressure. Some short build-up seen in today's trade. Okay,
it's time to get in our experts for today. Then, well, but before that, here's a reminder, if you have any queries regarding futures and options markets, you can always call us on 022454044141, or of course write to us on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube with the AskBQ hashtag. Let's get in our experts then. We have Rahul Shah of Motilal Oswal Financial Securities and K. Subramanyam of Altamount Capital joining us on the show. Good morning to both of you and thanks for taking the time out. Mr. Subramanyam, I start with you. Markets looking precarious, but how would you address the markets from here on?
Well, morning Agam. Yesterday's fall, I think, has now triggered a possibility of the last month's low of 10,637 thereabouts getting revisited. And I think 10,000 now. I think the open interest suggests that probably the 10,900 call itself will be, with the same sort of writing that we are seeing, that itself will provide us quite a lot of resistance. So keeping all these bearishness in mind, at least for an intraday perspective, recommending buying of a 10,800 strike put. I think that's quoting it around 48.50. Keeping a target of 110, and maybe one could keep a stop loss of 20.
That's the option strategy coming from Mr. Subramanyam to buy the 10,800 put of Nifty. Hi Rahul, good morning to you. Would you place any fresh bets? We've seen a mild bit of pullback which has come in, but so far every pullback rally has been used to sell. Do you see any material recovery coming by for the markets in the near term?
Good morning. I think looking at the way the Nifty in last few sessions, I think it's a sell on rise kind of a strategy has been fruitful, and I still feel that that will continue for a while because we are seeing a lot of Nifty heavyweights underperforming, so as then in turn with Nifty. So my view is that at Nifty can still underperform as we see that near term the resistance could be at 10,850 levels, which is very near, and I think lower levels it can go to 10,700 or odd level or so. So my sense is I think near term Nifty might consolidate or maybe underperform vis-a-vis Bank Nifty.
Okay, so consolidation is expected and likelihood of further weakness from current levels as far as the benchmarks are concerned. That is what our experts are saying. But let's talk about stocks then. And Rahul, I'll come back to you on stocks that are looking interesting to you in today's job trade.
There's one long idea and one short idea from my side. I think defensives are in the front seats, and basically all FMCG and most of them have done quite well, and some of them are at near-term highs as well. So in that space, Marico is one which I've been liking, and stock is near to its all-time high of 400 or odd levels. So I think risk to rewards augur well in going long on Marico with a stop loss of 382 and target of 400. Second one is I would recommend going short idea on JSW Steel. We've seen the steel stocks and entire metal pack underperforming for quite some time, and I think still that can JSW Steel can still go lower from here, and so I feel that near term one should go short on JSW with a stop loss of 216 and target of 200.
Okay, so long on Marico, short on JSW Steel is what Rahul has been suggesting. Rahul, are you also suggesting to buy the 27,000 call of Bank Nifty for tomorrow's expiry?
I would advise going long on 27, as we see that 26,500 has got on highest open interest in terms of puts on Bank Nifty for tomorrow's days. So I feel that risk to reward could be, there could be some halt in a Bank Nifty in way we saw yesterday the sell off. So there could be some bounce back. So in a bounce back one should exit. And as I said that Bank Nifty would outperform in rather than Nifty. So I would go long on 27,000 call, which is at 163. Keep a stop loss of 140 and target of 215.
Okay, that's the Bank Nifty strategy. Mr. Subramanyam, individual stock futures or stock options, what are you recommending?
Yeah, Navneet, I've got a couple of puts in the stock option strategies, and ICICI Bank. Now, this has been one which has now sort of capitulating to some pretty severe selling pressure. And it was the one which was actually holding up the Bank Nifty, at least lending some positivity. But going by the correction that we are seeing in ICICI Bank, one could possibly buy the 400 strike put and keeping a target of 39. I think we could see the slide quite sharp, expecting levels of around 375, 380. And one could keep a stop loss of 8. And another one is Titan. I think here we saw some pretty smart rally, the stock going past 1100. But yesterday again we saw the weakness returning. So I'm giving a deep in the money put, buying of a put in Titan. I think we could see some sharp correction here. Keeping a target of 100, and maybe one could keep a stop loss of 20.
Very interesting call there on Titan, of course, and as well, our expert has suggested, there could be some more volatility in store in that one. But let's talk about some stocks that we want to talk about in today's day of trade. I'm going to start off with Balkrishna Industries. Well, there is weakness. We have an initiation from a broking firm, Macquarie, which is suggesting that there very well could be further weakness, considering the target price set for this one is at 575 rupees per share. It's currently at around 700 or a little over that, but there is weakness. Well, Macquarie suggests that there has been proven track record, but there is also rising competition when it comes to Balkrishna Industries, and there are headwinds from weakness in the global agri and mining space. These are some of the aspects that do work against Balkrishna Industries. There's rising capital expenditure as well, which may very well likely weigh on profitability and return on capital employed. Of course, earnings decline has been evident, and it's not exactly done very well, even in comparison to some of the Balkrishna Industries peers. It's down 2.5% today. There is substantial increase in open interest of 16% today. We can also take a look at what it has done over the span of the last 3 months. It'll give you a better idea of the trend that Balkrishna Industries is following. And if you actually do consider that, the trend over the last 3 months, it's been largely range bound, but there is no taking away from the fact that it has also come off. So it's down 10.5%, but it's come off in the last 1 or 2 odd weeks. So there has been weakness there. Rahul, what would your assessment be of Balkrishna technically, and when you consider the futures and options space, what levels would you watch out for? Would you initiate fresh shorts at this point?
I think entire tire space we've seen a weakness, and they have been hitting new lows, and especially if I look at Balkrishna again, the stock is trading at the lower end and the lower channel as well. So my view is that I think still there could be some more downside. The technical setup suggests that the stock can extend more weakness from here. Upside looks very limited in the stock, so I feel 740 would be the high near term. Looks like where the stocks can face resistance, and lower it can go to 680 or odd levels, which is its near term low, which it has made at 686.
Okay, so that's the technical view on Balkrishna, which is, I believe, recovered also from the lowest point of the day. If you could just pull up the intraday chart, it's just down about 2.5%. I think when we opened today, the stock had seen deeper cuts of between 5 to 6%. Yes, it has recovered from the lows. Okay, the next stock that we're going to discuss is IndusInd Bank from the private banking space. We've seen IndusInd particularly being underperforming compared to its peers. So in the last 2 sessions, it's fallen about 6 to 7%, may have seen some bit of recovery from the lower point of the day since markets have also recovered, but the stock still trades below all its key moving averages. Mr. Subramanyam, looking at the technical setup on IndusInd Bank, which is currently trading above the mark of 1300, I think it did try to move towards that mark of 1400, but I think there's strong resistance which is there. But would you recommend taking any fresh short position on IndusInd Bank, considering it's been falling in the last 2 sessions? Mr. Subramanyam, that's for you. Technical view on IndusInd Bank.
Yeah, Navneet, I think now it's at the brink, and now that open interest is also surging, I think there's a strong possibility that we will probably see maybe a small bounce back up to levels of 320, maybe 330, 335. But odds are very high that by close of this expiry, it will probably slide all the way down to 1250. So I think probably immediately a short sell may not be warranted, but at every rise one could see some selling pressure coming about, and 1300 definitely seems precarious at the current stage.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to queries quickly because there are quite a few of them, and I'm sure a lot of these traders will be interested in taking positions considering we have seen such a sharp fall in the benchmarks. We have DN Bhattacharya. He wants a view on TCS and Tata Steel, and he wants to carry out a spread trade. Which I mean, I'm not completely certain whether or not a spread trade is similar to a pair trade or no. However, I'm going to take this one up with our experts. TCS, of course, is on the rise. Tata Steel, on the other hand, is on the decline. TCS is trading around lifetime highs, and Tata Steel continues to show a lot of weakness. Rahul, we've just spoken about weakness in the steel space. On the other hand, there is a lot of activity in defensive names, at least in this case TCS. If you could tell us whether or not a spread trade could be taken between TCS and Tata Steel.
I think obviously we've discussed earlier also metals looks weak on the charts, and I think TCS can still underperform. Tata Steel can still underperform from here. Obviously the stocks are trading at the lower end, and so I feel that yes, there can be a bear. One can buy puts in Tata Steel. whereas TCS again look a strong structure, but it looks like that 2300 looks capped for a near-term resistance for the TCS. So I would not advise going long on TCS at this juncture, but yes, one can initiate a short position in Tata Steel at this point.
Okay, so not recommending going long on TCS, but Rahul suggests that if you still want to take a position, you can look to go short on Tata Steel. In fact, the outlook for the steel companies has been on the lower side. Today, India Ratings and Research has cut the FY20 steel demand growth estimate from 7 to 4%. The next query is on Yes Bank, and it's come on YouTube from Akshat Lalka. He wants a view on this particular stock for the month. In fact, today, once again, you've got a report from Morgan Stanley where they've maintained their rating as underweight, but they've cut down the target to 55, clearly saying the risk reward is not favorable for this one. Mr. Subramanyam, since you track the stock options data up quite closely, the maximum open interest on the put side is at 40. What's the technical setup for Yes Bank, at least for the September series? Do you see the stock headed lower to these levels of 45 to 40?
Well, this stock has definitely surprised all of us on the downside, but I think current levels, I would probably take an odd that probably it will not go down to that level at least in the minute in the current series, because this 55 level seems to be pretty a decent level where we have seen some sort of short covering coming about. So I think you could probably look to maybe write a put. I don't know what's the option price available for the what is strike put. Maybe you could consider writing a put since it's still far away, and maybe pocket the premium.
All right, a stock similar to Yes Bank, which is also under pressure, is Ashok Leyland. And we have a query on this one from Himanshu Singhal. What's the view here, and can we get an idea on the levels as far as Ashok Leyland is concerned? Rahul, this one is for you, Ashok Leyland.
I think I feel that stock can still go down from the current levels. We've seen the entire auto pack. This stock has been hammered the most, and I feel there's some more downside in Ashok Leyland from current level as well. So I feel near term it could be at 58 or odd levels, and there could be a resistance at 63.50 or odd. So I think one can initiate a short with a stop loss of 63.50.
Okay, that's Ashok Leyland. It's down 4.5% today. Kotak Mahindra Bank, I think the next query is from the handle called F&O Student. Wants a view on Kotak Bank and levels to watch out for this month's expiry. That's the September expiry. Mr. Subramanyam, I think the stock's been weak in the last 3 to 4 sessions. On Friday, we did see some fresh shorting on the future side. Mild bit of recovery today, but how's the setup looking like? What are the key levels that you will watch out for Kotak Mahindra Bank for the September series?
Well, as far as this counter concerned, I think 1350 will be very critical. Now, this is the 1350 is level from where we have seen some sort of bounce back coming about, but odds are very high that this will be taken out on the downside this month. Though still trading quite high at around 1420 thereabouts. So I think if one way to take really want to play on this counter close, maybe one could resort to buying of a put of maybe a 1450 or 1400 strike, so that would be advantageous. On the eventuality of it sliding, one could take advantage of the downside and pocket some profits.
And it's around this time that we are likely to see a lot of traders start looking for potential opportunities in terms of bottom fishing. And well, one more example in this case is L&T Finance. We have Harsh Jethani who wants a view on this one. It's currently at 91.6, that's where its underlying is, but it has made lower lows, lower bottoms, lower tops, and that's how L&T Finance has been moving around. In fact, since, well, I would say April of this particular year. So there certainly has been a lot of weakness. The real question is, can there be a revival in the horizon? Rahul, this one's for you. What would your advice be to Harsh on this one?
I think entire NBFC sector as a whole looks weak, and I think there are bearing apart one or two stocks which have outperformed, which are the large caps like Bajaj and Bajaj Finance and HDFC. So L&T, if I look at L&T Finance, obviously the technical structure is very weak and it's trading at the lower bottoms. So I still feel there could be a resistance at 94 or odd levels, and there could be some more pain in the stock. It might consolidate from these levels, and I think it is warranted it can go to 85 or odd levels in near term.
Okay, that's L&T Finance Holdings for you. The other stock that we also wanted to discuss was Muthoot Finance. There's a lot of OI build-up that has come in today's session. Now remember, both Muthoot and Manappuram have been outperformers so far in this calendar year. They've weathered the liquidity storm pretty well, but even the companies which were doing well, they've succumbed to selling pressure. Muthoot Finance is down almost 2.5% today, and clear sign of some short build-up as the open interest is up about 17%. The stock's also trading below its 50 and 100-day moving average. Mr. Subramanyam, on the charts, Muthoot Finance, considering the fall that we are seeing, coupled with OI build-up as well, would you recommend taking any position in the downside here?
Well, currently trading at around 590, but odds are high that here again some pretty severe, cracks are appearing closer to levels of 590, 600. So odds are high that this will slide all the way down to 500. So I think this could be one counter which could see some pretty severe hammering in the current series.
Okay, we actually have a bunch of queries. Unfortunately, let's try and address as many as possible with the time that we have. We have one on RBL as well. Now, RBL has gone through a lot of churn, and it has been very, very volatile of late. But after it's come around to the levels of around 310, there has been an arrest in that fall of late. So it's currently at around 318 odd levels. Around the time when we did hit around the 310, 315 levels, there's been a little bit of flattish movement, which may perhaps lead traders to believe that the fall for now has been arrested and possibly a recovery. That's the hope out there. It's up 1%. There is an increase of 6% in open interest today, but as you have seen that chart of the last 1 month and 3 months, it has certainly come off from its lows. So on a 1 month basis also, it's lost out as much as 22%. Mr. Subramanyam, I'll come back to you on this one. RBL Bank view, how would you address this? What's the way forward here?
Well, Akam, I think this chart now looks pretty worrying, because from 717 that it touched in the May series, now it touched a low of 290 in the last series, and currently it is showing no signs of any bounce back. Maybe at the most I can say it's a little oversold. But this is one stock which now started looking dangerously weak, and any bounce, I think we could actually see some selling pressure, because this sort of a crack normally attracts more selling pressure when the overall market weakens. So I would advise, maybe if a bounce comes about to close to levels of 340, 350, maybe I don't know about how liquid the options are, but odds are high that this will probably break the near-term low of 290 that it did last month.
Maybe a short covering bounce seen for RBL Bank. One more query is coming from, that's a handle called Cool Varsi. He wants a view on IDFC Bank. Rahul, very quickly on the charts, IDFC Bank, any sort of position that you would recommend? Now, just checking this calendar year returns, it's just about be it flat or down probably 1 or 2%.
I think still the technical again looks weaker on IDFC first. And I feel that there could be a resistance at 43.70 or odd levels, and then there could be more pain around 40 or odd. It could be from the current levels. So I would advise shorting IDFC First Bank from current levels.
Okay, unfortunately, guys, we've run out of time on the show, so I'm going to try and take some of these queries and push them in Ask BQ, which is a show that comes on at 12:30, and possibly we can address some of them on that show as well. And I do take cognizance of the fact that there are plenty out there, and we would if we could. But on that note, I'm also going to thank both our experts, Rahul and Mr. Subramanyam, for joining us and taking us through their views on the markets, as well as, of course, solving so many of our queries. But don't forget to also log on to Bloomberg Quint's futures and options pages, which has plenty of data for you.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the F&O Show. Thanks a lot for watching. Stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint for more news and updates.